It's my pleasure to welcome you to another session from the Greater Vancouver Circular Economy Network. This is the first one of the 2023 year on accessing R&D opportunities for circular business. Please note that the first part of this session is being recorded, so please remain off camera if you do not wish to be recorded. The breakout rooms we'll be going into later on in the session will not be recorded. But for those who are comfortable, we do encourage you to turn your cameras on in the spirit of really getting to know one another. My name is Maria. I'm an analyst on our circular economy team here at the Vancouver Economic Commission. I'd like to begin by, again, respectfully acknowledging that today we are gathered on the unceded ancestral territories of the Squamish, the Musqueam, and the Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. The mission of this work that we're all doing, centered on supporting the circular economy as we call it, has been practiced here since time immemorial, and we strive to honor that and work to regenerate and decolonize this land, holding closely that we all have place-based responsibility wherever we may live and work. And so those joining us today online represent a much broader geography. We'd like to encourage you to introduce yourself in the chat and acknowledge the host nation or nations of the land where you are tuning in from. As many of you also know, this network series is a partnership with the Share, Use, Repair initiative. So with this, I'd like to pass it on to Alice Henry, our project partner, to say a couple words.
Thanks, Maria. My name is Alice Henry, and I'm a program manager at the Share, Use, Repair initiative. The Share, Use, Repair initiative, or SRRI, brings together government, business, and community innovators to foster a circular economy that serves as a meaningful waste and climate solution, enables everyone to live circular, and supports resilient local economies and communities. This six-part series is a collaboration between VC and SRRI, and it's powered and supported by Vancity. Vancity is a cooperative financial institution committed to supporting its members in the communities they live in and to a low carbon, resilient economy that works for everyone. We are grateful to Vancity for powering the GVCEN series. We're excited to bring this topic to you today, and back over to you, Maria.
Thanks, Alice. If we can fast forward a couple of slides there. From VEC's end, we are the Economic Development Agency for the City of Vancouver, which means we are mandated by the city to handle its economic development activities. And we do so through something we like to call economic transformation, where we look to a future state of Vancouver, one that is prosperous, resilient, inclusive, and low carbon. And we get to work by building projects, programs, and initiatives that we believe will get us to that future state. And so our team works to strengthen Vancouver's economic future, economic health, and also publish industry research through our in-house research engine. As part of my position on the circular economy team, it includes supporting the local business community in this transition towards what we envision to be a circular economy, this series being a largely part of that goal. And so with the Greater Vancouver Circular Economy Network, it's been designed to enable knowledge share on specific topics within the circular economy, or topics that will allow circular economy enterprises in the region to grow. And so GVCEN, as we like to call it for short, is a platform for circular economy businesses to not only develop themselves and keep up with emerging trends and opportunities, but to also just connect with one another and understand what's going on within the broader ecosystem. And so in every one of these sessions, you'll hear from subject matter experts and local businesses that are either leading the way in the local circular economy or carry the necessary knowledge and resources to enable this transition. And in the second half of each of these sessions, you'll join brief breakout rooms where everyone is invited to share their challenges, ask questions, and share insights from what they've heard that day. We've had a number of sessions already passed, with a few more coming up our way. Our next session that we currently have set is on Wednesday, February 5th at the same time, and we'll talk about tools that can help businesses expand outside of British Columbia and Canada, and also how you can grow and expand in a way that upholds your circular value. And so you can check out the registration page for these sessions through the following links that Alice will pop into the chat. And we're also posting a save the date for an upcoming social we're hoping to plan towards the beginning of March. And so many in this room are familiar with the term circular economy, so I won't go too far into depth with it, but it's an economic model that extends the life cycle of products by keeping products and materials in use and at their highest value for as long as possible. And so through this process, waste is eliminated through the reduction, the reuse, the repair, and the recycling of materials. And by keeping materials in that working cycle, rather than letting them go to waste, as we see in the linear economy, this also creates a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions and other negative environmental impacts. And so through a circular economy, innovation is increased, green jobs are created, and costs are also significantly reduced. And the circular economy that we envision is one that tackles the climate crisis. It's inclusive, it's equitable, it's just, and it's also regenerative by design. And so today we're jumping into the topic of R&D, so research and development, and how to access opportunities within it if you are a business operating in the Greater Vancouver region. Today's topic actually came about as a core area of interest from previous GVCEN series and attendees. And so today we've gathered for you a panel of industry experts and professionals ranging from those that are providing R&D services to those who have also successfully navigated the process themselves. After each speaker, we'll have a couple of minutes for questions before transitioning over to the next speaker. And also note that the recording of this session will be made available afterwards for those who have maybe missed something while our speakers were chatting. After we've heard from the speakers, we'll bring the conversation into breakout rooms for all of you to share your reflections, your experiences, and your resources if you have them with one another. And that's sort of kind of our outline for today and what we can kind of expect. And without further ado, if there's no other kind of immediate questions coming up from the group, I'd like to get started with our speaker lineup. Don't see anything popping in the chat there. First up to bat, though, I'd like to introduce Bryn Crawford. He's the program manager at the Materials and Manufacturing Research Institute out at the University of British Columbia, MMRI for short. Bryn, I'll leave it over to you to introduce yourself and kick us off.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I will just share my screen here before we get going. Okay, here we go. Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Bryn Crawford, and I'm a research engineer at the Materials and Manufacturing Research Institute at UBC, as Maria just introduced me. So I'd just like to start by saying thanks to the Vancouver Economic Commission and the Share, Reuse, Repair initiative for organizing this event and for the invitation to present today. Specifically, I'd like to take some time to present about R&D in the circular economy from the perspective of my role and more broadly UBC as a research institution and how it can support the wider community in these efforts. So I'll provide a bit of a background on MMRI and how it's positioned in this space, as well as details on different funding avenues to support such R&D activities, including the group dynamics, matching ratios, and other details like that. What I've included is a non-exhaustive list, but I hope it provides some useful information for this group. I'll then wrap up the presentation with 2 examples of R&D projects in the area of the circular economy, just to show you the kind of stuff we can achieve at these different scales. Okay, so the Materials and Manufacturing Research Institute, or MMRI, is an internal institute at UBC, which acts as a meeting point for community stakeholders and UBC researchers. It somewhat acts as a front door with staff members like myself at the front desk. So part of my role is to perform community outreach, and find people and organizations interested in pursuing collaborative R&D and connecting them with researchers rather who have expertise matching the posed technical challenges from those partners. And with over 120 faculty in our network, chances are we can match you with a suitable researcher to scope out a potential collaborative project. And part of our operational funding has been provided by PacifiCan under the Accelerating Circular Economy, or ACE program, to facilitate this type of work. So following such introductions between researchers and community stakeholders, the next step is typically to identify funding agencies to support that research. So this slide here summarizes this dynamic between community stakeholders and UBC, or other universities for that matter, under the agencies that we commonly work with as either lead or co-applicants in funding research proposals. So I'll go over some more of the details of these specific programs in a later slide. I'll just start with the high-level details here. Here, federal and provincial agencies inject cash at specified matching rates to accompany government or non-profit cash to fund the collaborative research. And each agency and program have different mandates, such as NSERC being more focused on scientific discovery type work, and MITAX being focused on training graduate students as interns to give them industrial experience and training them up. So in general, myself and my colleagues would be the lead authors of any such grant proposals with these agencies. This stipulates an exchange of cash and student mentorship from our collaborators with a requirement for us to provide access to students' facilities and ultimately generate IP and technology in support of this research. So this slide is very similar to the last one, but highlights programs with a greater focus on for-profit companies in particular. So there tends to be a lot more funding out there for those class of groups. So under such programs, the company is typically the lead applicant, where a research institution like UBC is included in the project plan as a contractor, providing R&D services, but isn't a primary applicant for that funding. And this arrangement is quite common. For example, I've included a quote in the upper right of the slide from the BC Centre of Innovation and Clean Energy, showing how it's permitted exactly under that program. So very, very common amongst these types of programs across the province and Canada more broadly. So in this class of grants, we of course have the NRC IRAP program. That's the National Research Council Industrial Research Assistant Program, which is focused specifically on SMEs across Canada. So they have many programs available in facilitating the hiring of new employees, particularly youth employees, as well as research-focused grants as well. So the long and short of getting connected with IRAP is to reach out to your industrial technology advisor or ITA at IRAP, and they can certainly help you navigate all the different programs they have. ISC, or Innovative Solutions Canada, focuses on larger scale, more disruptive technologies, which is really about commercializing those directly to market. And Innovate BC is somewhat analogous to IRAP, but with more of a disruptive technologies flavor in the mandates that they're proposing and pursuing with their funding. So once again, the slide is quite similar, this time with a focus on programs intended to fund larger strategic initiatives. These are often government bodies or nonprofits as leaders looking to implement transformations at the community level. And universities are typically less at the forefront of these applications, and instead, more similar to the previous slide, can be contracted in support of achieving specific technical goals and milestones. And for these programs especially, it can be difficult to keep up to date on their offerings and intake timings. So it's always recommended to sign up for their mailing lists to get the latest information. That's something even we struggle with at UBC to keep abreast of. And this is just a small selection, a non-exhaustive list covering this. So here, this is a summary of some of the more common funding program details that we at MMRI have the most experience with. And I've arranged these from least effort to implement in the top row to the most at the bottom, really is a function of the amount of time needed to be invested by the collaborating partner. So at the top here, we have our IRAP Circular Economy Seed Fund Program. This is a seed fund program managed by MMRI, whereby companies are invited to submit approximately 2-page long proposals in partnership with a faculty member to fund a feasibility study type project up to 9,000 Canadian dollars. So that funds access to facilities, access to student researchers who can perform the work, where the duration of the projects are typically between 3 to 4 months in duration. And the intent of this program is to create a pathway for larger scale projects downstream, where companies will put cash after that initial relationship with the faculty has been explored. So MyTax is another very popular program that we do a lot of collaborative research with in the circular economy space. And this is the program with a mandate of getting students trained effectively. So under this program, the matching ratio is 50%. So nominally for every dollar a company puts in to fund research, MyTax will put in another $1 at 50% to fund that research. And in this case, given that the mandate is to train students, nominally those students should be located on site at the company 50% of the time where possible. And the company retains all of the IP generated from the research project, as the student is an intern of the company. We also have the Alliance program under NSERC. So as I mentioned previously, this program is really focused on funding scientific research, but the mandate doesn't stop at that point necessarily. We can in fact combine the NSERC Alliance program and MyTax together with a joint application. That's become a quite popular direction to ultimately increase the leveraging ratio between what the company puts in and what these funding agencies match, up to approximately $1 to $2.50 from the funding agencies. So we can get very good matching ratios for this type of research. And then further down the list, as I mentioned in the previous slides, programs like Innovate BC and Innovative Solutions Canada really focuses more on commercialization of disruptive technologies. So those applications are typically much larger in scope and have a high level of effort associated with them. So now I'll just talk a little bit about two example projects that we've run that demonstrate the types of things we can achieve in these collaborative research programs. Starting off with one, which is actually a project run between a researcher at UBC's Okanagan campus and Monty, one of the speakers here today of Calmura Natural Walls. And this project was funded through the IRAP Circular Economy Seed Fund program, where Calmura was producing these biocomposite panels that needed to be characterized to generate some kind of literature that could be published in pursuit of marketing activities by the company. So under this program, we were able to characterize the performance of these biocomposite panels under specific ASTM standards and provide those values. So in this type of program, we're not able to provide certificates of conformance to demonstrate conformance to these standards, but we can produce the results that would be typically provided by a third-party lab to de-risk that next step in the commercialization project. And then the second and last project I'll just highlight here is a collaboration between UBC and Van der Lande. They're the company that designs, manages, and operates the luggage handling infrastructure at various airports around the world, including YVR. And in this project, we are effectively redesigning these luggage tote structures, these yellow platforms upon which luggage sits as it's shuttled around the airport. And these structures are made of non-circular materials. They very much follow the take, make, dispose model. So we're working with this company to redesign the materials used in this product, explore different types of bio-based materials that we can substitute, and provide a suite of mechanical and quality assurance tests to assure that the product will perform equivalently to what has been historically used at the company. So that's, I believe, all I have time for. So I'll leave it at that and happy to open the floor for questions.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Bryn. Any questions coming up from attendees? You can post it in the chat. You can also raise your hand and say it out loud if you'd like.
Is it possible to see that last slide really quickly again?
This one here?
Yeah, thank you.
And so this, as I mentioned before, this recording will become available. And so these kind of snapshots of the PowerPoints, if you want to kind of get more into the details, will be available after this call. Absolutely. Bryn, I have a question for you. What sorts of kind of backgrounds, you mentioned faculty advisors before in your presentation here. What sorts of backgrounds do these faculty advisors typically have?
Very good question. So since we have a directory of over 120 faculty at UBC and other research institutions through which we can connect, pretty much any topic area, but specifically in terms of the circular economy at UBC under the ACE program. I will mention just some supplementary slides I have here, a couple of different faculty with whom we lead a couple of different key projects in our space. So one is on polymer processing and recycling. So this professor here, Dr. Mohammed Ajmand, he's the Canada Research Chair in Polymer Engineering, and he has many facilities that allows us to explore different polymer recycling and upcycling initiatives. So that could include functionalizing old polymers that give it modified strength, thermal, and other physical characteristics to help those waste polymers find new life, keep them moving in the economy, to including additives that make the polymers more biodegradable, things like that. Maybe one other example I'll give is Cheatham. She has a lot of expertise in assessing biodegradability. So she's working with, for example, with the city of Vancouver and their wastewater treatment plants to assess the biodegradability of biomass that's extracted from the wastewater treatment process, but also works with companies in evaluating the biodegradability of food packaging items and those types of things as well. So I could speak a long time about that, but hopefully that gives you some information to answer that question.
Amazing. Thank you, Bryn. We'll pop over to our next speaker here. We're talking about biodegradability. It's a really great segue to our next speaker. I'd like to introduce Dr. Love-Ese Chile, who is the Technical Director and COO at Regenerative Waste Labs. Regenerative Waste Labs is a leader in the Canadian circular bioeconomy, specializing in compost science, biomaterials, and organic waste recovery. Love-Ese, thanks so much for joining us today, and over to you to introduce yourself even further.
Thanks so much for having me. I'll share my screen here. Great, yeah, I'm really excited to kind of share a little bit about what we do at Regenerative Waste Labs. So I have the privilege and pleasure to kind of talk a little bit to bridge the gap between what Bryn was just saying about accessing research through UBC and what Monty will be talking about, how they have been able to utilize those different services to be able to kind of drive their own development within their company. So Regenerative Waste Labs, we are a research consulting firm working within the circular economy. We really envision a world where waste can be regenerated into products that are healthy for people and the planet. And we really strive to support the production and consumption of truly sustainable products and find value in organic waste. So we recognize that businesses are really trying to take different approaches to drive this, to reach their sustainability goals. On one side of this spectrum, we're talking a lot about the circular economy, which really centers restorative and regenerative design. Some of the, I guess, the nuances of the circular economy is often feedstocks come from petroleum or plastic production, and we're really promoting recycling and reuse as our main mechanisms to avoid the landfill. On the other side of the spectrum, we also have the bioeconomy. So within the bioeconomy, we're really centering renewable and benign design. So feedstocks often come from sustainable agriculture and forestry. And here we're once again centering reuse and organic recovery as our ways of managing our waste at the end of the product's life cycle. So kind of bridging the gap, which is very much what the Waste Labs does, is kind of try to find opportunities to kind of bring different stakeholders together. But we really are quite excited about these ideas of the circular bioeconomy, which kind of takes the best of both worlds from these two different models. So in the circular bioeconomy, we're really centering renewable and regenerative design. So feedstocks within the system come from the IC&I sector as well as municipal organic waste. And there's an opportunity here to incorporate reuse, recycling, and organic recovery when we're thinking about the development of bio-based materials and bio-based products. So at the Waste Labs, we're really providing services to support all of these different approaches. We believe that there is a lot of value that can be created from the use of plant and waste-based materials, and that they can provide the economic and environmental benefits of both the bioeconomy and the circular economy. Yeah, so when we're driving sustainability, when we look out into the ecosystems, we're realizing and recognizing that diversity is really our strength. And so at the Waste Labs, we understand that if we have diverse solutions, we also need to have services that will be able to support those different solutions as well. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about the services that we provide and supporting the ecosystem and building a circular bioeconomy in Canada. And also I'll talk a little bit about the way that we ourselves as a business have been able to start up and develop the space and the work that we do. I won't have a chance to touch on the work that we do in policy and infrastructure building, but you can always circle back and chat with me at a later date. So to dive right into the services that we provide for the ecosystem. So our key services are really around environmental performance and technical consulting and research and development. So really, we are the third party that can substantiate environmental claims and product behavior. So we really strive to integrate research and testing with the best practices for stewardship and market deployment of plant and waste-based products. So we have, I'll show you our research space in just a moment, but we really have our expertise on compostability, plant and soil health, and we seek to design and support businesses in designing custom research projects within the circular bioeconomy. We also provide whole systems consulting. So recognizing that the technology is just kind of one step, that the material that we create is just one step to implementing it into the marketplace. So it's important to be able to understand the challenging regulatory landscape, the marketing and communication requirements when we're communicating the value of circular products. We also have education and training resources, which I'll share in just a moment. And the last main service that we have is this idea of waste regeneration. So often we think about waste management, how can we just kind of figure out a supply chain to move the waste around to find a place for it? When we think about waste regenerating, it's kind of turning that conversation on its head and recognizing the value in waste and being able to connect waste generators with waste users so that people can actually start to utilize this organic material to create new products. And so we're really supporting businesses and organizations through their transition to creating and developing and using circular and sustainable products. So our research space is in the center of the city. We're just down the road from Science World, and we've slowly been building up this research space to be able to conduct standardized or custom research projects that incorporate best practices for product design. So this is a service we provide for businesses who are developing new products and materials. But because we are working with companies who make new products and materials, we also have an intimate knowledge about the products that are in the marketplace, the materials that they use, and which ones, and the best way to kind of communicate the value of these different products. In some cases, there's kind of blatant greenwashing, and in other cases, the businesses are doing the best they can to truly communicate the value of their products. And so we can also take this knowledge and expertise and incorporate that into other in different ways. So we've worked with businesses and organizations to support sustainable procurement by doing things like sustainability assessments to provide a comparison between products based on the materials they're composed of, the locality of their production, and other sustainability metrics. And so this additional procurement support can be very useful for people in the hospitality industries and those who are seeking options for food service, for different types of packaging materials, even just for different types of raw materials to kind of put into their products as well. We also translate a lot of our research into workshops and training for circular economy businesses. So one of the key things can be, we have these new labeling guidelines which are coming down from the federal government to ensure that products are appropriately labeled so the consumer knows exactly where products are supposed to be going. And we also are able to facilitate workshops for teams to be able to bring an entire, for example, sales team or R&D team up to the same level of knowledge about circular economy principles. And so we've worked with both new startups and established businesses in supporting them in becoming competitive and using this information to their advantage. And often people don't necessarily want to go through a full workshop, but we do have online educational resources for both businesses and the public. And so we've taken our research, both about the technical materials and also about the marketplace as a whole, and turned those into online learning courses. And so you can go through this learning portal and we have different streams which have been designed for different stakeholders within the supply chain. So people who might be producing raw materials and resins, those who are designing and manufacturing products, and small to medium businesses and brand owners who might be seeking to procure sustainable materials. And we do a lot of public education. We love to kind of take our research to the streets. And so on our website, we do offer a series of FAQs about a lot of different topics within the circular bioeconomy and the bioeconomy as a whole. And just speaking a little bit about our waste regeneration, our passion for waste regeneration. I mean, we are the Regenerative Waste Labs, and so it makes a lot of sense for us. And so we're really seeking to connect waste generators with the resource recovery technologies that they need to stabilize and allow for their organic waste to be transported from place to place, and also connecting them with waste users through a concierge program. We see many, many companies creating products from new materials, like from plant and waste-based materials, things like corn husks or banana peels, some really amazing and interesting new products. And the waste is often generated in the agri-food sector, as well as IC&I waste as well. And so organizations like Refeed are working to prevent food loss and waste by connecting organizations. But in our work, we're really seeking to take that next step to support businesses who use waste to find the feedstocks that they need. And these feedstocks would be things like coconut husks, hemp fibers, cellulose, chitosan, silk proteins, all the way to more synthetic polymers like PLA and bio-based polyethylenes. All of those need specific feedstocks to be waste feedstocks for their production. So those are some of the services that we provide into the marketplace. But I just wanted to take a sidestep to talk a little bit more about how we were able to do our own startup and development. The Waste Labs was founded in 2020, but we started our research a little bit earlier in 2018. And so we were able to leverage quite a few programs that were mentioned by Bryn. I worked with UBC and SFU summer students, utilizing a lot of the different internship programs like MyTax, Eco Canada. Interestingly, the McGill University has a PhD internship program. So you can actually get more experienced PhD students to work within your organization to support different types of activities. And so we also used the UBC Create program, getting some, once again, PhD students to work within our research space to be able to really start to build out. So one of the biggest challenges we found, and I think many people in this room may also be facing this challenge, is finding the space for our operations. And so we used online resources like Space Finder. I do definitely recommend working with the VEC to kind of facilitate some of this action as well, and trying to find that industrial land, which is kind of in scarce supply these days, to be able to set up operations. But once we did find our space, we were able to start to develop our own custom technology, working with different students, and we were really able to drive our research development over these first 2 years before we started incorporated into the Waste Labs officially. And we also found that just kind of going out, I think one of the cornerstones of the circular economy is that collaboration piece. And so we were able to work with local urban farms to set up outdoor compost studies over this last year or so. And we're really vocal about the work that we do. So we use our research as a pathway to engage with stakeholders about important issues. And through this engagement, we're able to bring visibility to the businesses that we work with and showcase the value of the products that they're creating, but also being able to then work with a wide variety of stakeholders to be able to actually facilitate and implement some of the work that we've done. So on the slide are the people we're actively working with today. So we have some partners who we get food waste from for our composting experiments, our technical partners, Langara, KPU, Emily Carr, UBC, partners that help us develop our technology, Terraformer and False Creek Fab. Recycling Alternative helps us get, we utilize waste a lot in the work that we do, both in building our equipment and in using it for our actual experiments. So Recycling Alternative has been an amazing support for that. Open Science Network is a nonprofit which is trying to bring science to the streets, and they've been able to support us in acquiring some technical equipment through their channels as well. So if anyone's looking for a fume hood, please hit me up. I have a spare fume hood in our lab that I'm trying to get rid of. Working with Ethos Lab, which is trying to get youth excited about some of the work that we do, and Vancity supported a lot of the work that we've done in building some of our educational resources. And I just wanted to share some other research and scale-up partners which people may not be aware of. We will be sharing these slides, so you'll be able to kind of touch base with some of these. So Green Centre Canada, they are an organization which supports green and sustainable chemistry. They're located in Ontario, but they have some great programs for startups. FB Innovations is a great organization to work with if you're thinking about using wood or forestry-based products. AGAT Labs, Kimetco, BC Research Vineland, and Pacific Rim Labs are testing and research companies here in BC, and Vineland is in Ontario. But they have a great teams to support you in achieving some of the testing and research that you might need. And Genome Canada is great if you're doing kind of biological research and seeking to find opportunities for additional funding. So I think that's the end of my time. And so if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat box. And you can reach us, the Waste Labs, at regenwastelabs.com or info@regenwastelabs. Cheers.
Amazing, Love-Ese. Thank you so much. I feel like I've heard you talk about Regenerative Waste Labs before, and every time I'm learning something new. I love it. And thanks for sharing all those partners at the end there as well. Do you have any questions from attendees for Love-Ese? Looking in the chat. seeing it pop up. Love-Ese, can you give us an example, if you're able to and without details, of a project that you've worked on with a business?
Yeah, of course. So we've done a couple of different projects, obviously. So one of them which comes to mind, I mean, kind of traditional, is just a business who's making a new plant or waste-based material. So we would do things like disintegration testing. So we create a compost pile and we put the products inside. And every week we pull that material out, take images of the degradation, just to really quantify how quickly that material breaks down. And on the other side, we've been working with a local company who was who wanted their entire team to kind of have the same circular economy training, and then take a deeper dive with their sales team so that they can communicate to their customers the value of these different alternatives, be it recycled content, plant-based, etc. So we designed a custom workshop for them. We took the entire team through some basic circular economy skills and worked with them on some activities to try to find ways to both incorporate more sustainability into the processes of their company, as well as ways to encourage their customers or clients to really start to think about circular economy and sustainability principles in their own procurement activities. And so, yeah, so I mean, we're researchers, we're a team of researchers. We recognize that the science is really fantastic to have, but we try to translate it and create different types of resources for different people within different parts of their sustainability journey. So we're really a partner. We want to partner with businesses and help them along that entire journey, because we know it's not just about taking that one step, but there's multiple steps to get to that final goal that we're all seeking.
Amazing. Love that. We have a couple of questions popping up here in the chat. Alex asks, for bio-waste testing, does RWL have equipment to help with physical breakdown samples to conduct testing?
Yes, we do, Alex. I'm not too sure what you mean by physical breakdown, if that means like grinding before we do certain types of tests, but I'd be happy to touch base with you. Please feel free to reach out. But we do have the equipment to do biodegradation and disintegration testing within our research space, and also plant and soil health testing of the material that's created after we do that composting as well.
Great. Oh, Alex says thank you, he'll reach out. And he was referring to grinding.
Okay.
We have a question from Miguel. In your opinion, what is the local capacity in Vancouver when it comes to R&D space, equipment, and partnerships for smaller growing organizations looking to facilitate technical work on smaller budgets?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge, Miguel. And one of the things that I'm still not sure that lots of research businesses kind of get pushed out of the city of Vancouver itself, kind of to Burnaby and other to the greater Vancouver area, generally because industrial land is scarce in Vancouver and it's relatively expensive. Pre-COVID, there were more opportunities. There were a lot of co-work spaces for tech businesses, but obviously COVID kind of shut a lot of those down because people weren't able to go into those spaces. So I'm hoping to see those build up again. But I do have a lot of hope, because we are seeing a lot more co-work spaces, especially in the food space, food production. Lots of people, and I even saw a co-work brewery more recently. I think I was hanging out with a friend. And that was really interesting. So I think there's lots of people trying to create those models. And I think if we're able, once again, to kind of come together and build those networks and showcase that there are a lot of startups who are seeking this space, I think there's an opportunity there to start to find those facilities that we can all share. But I definitely recognize that as a challenge, but maybe that's something the VEC can help us with.
Oh goodness, yeah. That's a hope for sure. Last question from Neil. Any bottleneck from your operation?
That's a fantastic question. I think the biggest bottleneck for us has been finding the correct expertise. We are a relatively niche organization. Like the work that we do, we find a lot of people who have experience in biomaterials, experience in like horticulture and plant science. But looking at how organic waste can be transformed into other types of products is currently not a big area of exploration coming from institutions and universities. So we do a lot of that training on site. We talk a lot about how biomaterials break down in composting piles, and we take a deep dive into compost science with all of our new team. So I think within the circular economy and sustainability space, often we're stepping out into new kind of subsections and subdisciplines, and so there is a lot of requirement for training, but also, you know, a lot of the startups are really trying to leverage these hiring grants. So, you know, people who are fresh out of undergrad or fresh out of graduate school. And so often that's just the way that these young people are. They just kind of, their first step into the career pipeline, and they're trying to just get some experience before potentially moving on to another place. And so for us, we've been spending a lot of time training, but then having a lot of that expertise leave the business, which has been a bit of a disappointment. But so for us, that's kind of where we're at. And so we're really seeking this year to start to partner with a few more institutions and see if there's a way for us to kind of have more internships and potentially have those interns kind of roll over into full-time positions after they graduate. So for us, that's kind of been one of the bigger challenges to getting our work done.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Love-Ese. That was so wonderful. If you want to pop your email in the chat in case there's any other questions that pop up for you, that'd be fantastic as well. Okay, I think we're at last but not least. Absolutely, it's my pleasure to introduce Monty Chong-Walden, who's the co-founder and CEO of Calmura Natural Walls. We heard about Calmura a little bit at the beginning there from Bryn, but Monty, over to you to tell us a little bit more about your journey with R&D.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you. So first thing I'm going to do is actually turn off my video because I seem to be having some internet problems, and I'm hoping that it'll help with the sound and the picture. So before I share, I'm just going to do that. Sorry about that. Let's go here. I also feel like I have a lot to share, but thankfully my co-presenters have covered a fair amount of it, but I feel like I need to speak very quickly to get through what I want to say. But here is what I hope to cover. I'm just going to give a quick background of my experience in the company and the work we've been doing, and then get into our experience of the R&D and innovation pathways that we've found for some success, and then a little bit of additional circular economy resources that have been popping up more recently, even since being invited to be part of this panel, which I'm very appreciative of, and then getting to discussing questions. So my background is actually as a mechanical engineer at UBC, along with some architecture and art studies, and I've added a green MBA that I'm working on through the San Francisco Institute of Architecture. But I've always been interested as an entrepreneur. And one of my first companies was starting a rigging company where we did this high rigging work. The pictures you see are some safety lines we did at Air Canada Centre there. The next company was really my first circular economy company, which is Ancient Forest Woods. They're pulling logs out of the lakes in Ontario and northeastern North America, and we were using that wood to make custom lake rescued woods projects around North America. And so that was sort of my first dip into circular economy without really even realizing it at the time. And then I ran a wood flooring company for a number of years. So I've been in the building and construction industry for quite a while. And now being the CEO of Calmura Natural Walls, which we started in 2016 and incorporated in 2017. We have 2 patents granted, and we're currently at TRL 4. And so why do this? For me, it's about the kind of world we're building. And I think a lot of people are looking at that right now and seeing that it's not really adding up. In the building industry, we have lots of issues, particularly 39% global CO2 emissions and lots of waste. And then there's a lot of homeowner problems with the way buildings are built, right? We're lasting better than buildings built 40 years ago. And one of the judges for that pitch agreed that that was a problem because he owned both of those types of homes, and the 100-year-old home was definitely lasting better than the 40-year-old home. So, so what have we done? In my research of better ways to do things, which I'm currently always doing, I found a product that they're using in Europe called hempcrete or hemp lime. And it's getting a lot of interest around the world. And so it caught my interest as a superior building material. And so what is this material? It's a modern cob material, generally using hemp as a bioaggregate, but there's other materials that you can use as well. We did research with wood chips at FP Innovations, which I'll get to, but people have used rice husk, coconut husk, artichoke stalk, and you mix this bioaggregate with a lime clay mortar binder, trying to avoid Portland cement. And this gives you this biocomposite, which you use as a monolithic wall infill material. So there's great benefits to this material. It's pretty comprehensive in how well it works. I'm not going to get into it too much. Whoa, where did this come from? Interesting. Anyways, what we've worked on is this panel and infill method. We saw a lot of bricks and blocks being made out there. We have a patent for this panel with infill around wood framing, which is done on site. And this is what it looks like as an embodiment with wood framing. At the center to hold up the structure. You can use it for other uses, such as floors, ceilings, alongside mass timber. You can make it decorative and use it for energy retrofits. So it's a very useful building product. Usually when you're building, you're using sticks, bricks, blocks, panels, and finishes. So this is our thought around this product. And we got so far as building this demonstration display of a mobile office pod, which was a lot of fun. And we feel it looks very sort of stylistic, and we did all the lighting and furniture inside of it. So how did we get here? What path did we take? Well, started with research and my garage workshop. And being very scientific about it, find ways to test the material ourselves, finding ways to combine different ingredients and test different ways. We did this for about 6 or 7 months. And I did it very scientifically. With an engineering background, I kept spreadsheets and notes. And very active move forward. And along with that, I started with networking, friends and family, talking to everybody and finding connections that would help. Business and university contacts are very important. I use LinkedIn quite a if you don't know how to send a invitation with a note, learn how to do that. You'll get much more response by doing that. University, I knew one person in engineering at UBC and contacted him. And luckily through that, I met Felix Bach, who was working with FP Innovations at the time. He has now Chop Value. If you don't know Chop Value, it's a successful circular economy story from Vancouver. And he got us introduced at of lab research space out at UBC. So just through one contact, we had some great success. Politicians and government, go and talk to them, find out what's going on, introduce yourself to your MLA and your MP and let them know what you're working on. Trade shows and presentations, there's so many presentations like this one that you can not only learn from, but meet people and go to trade shows, walk the floor, meet people, talk to them. And then influences are becoming much more important these days with social media. So, and it's a way to find potential advisors as well. Then we moved on to accelerators. One was definitely looking at university and college accelerators. We were at UBC. Then more sector specific, spent time at Foresight Clean Tech Accelerator Center and did different programs from there. There are different sector specific accelerators. Foresight is growing very rapidly and adding all the time. And then Impact One Spring Activator is very active in Vancouver and around the world. And I did the Earth Tech Accelerator out of Toronto, but they're now with Foresight. So that's something to keep an eye on. And then moving out from there, we were part of the Clean Tech Open, which is a international accelerator out of the States. Generator is doing a lot of new programs. Plug and Play has been very helpful for us. There's more circular economy accelerators, and oh, did I miss? Oh, Creative Destruction Lab. I'm kind of getting blocked here. Sorry. From let's see what the rest of my slide is here, but there's more and more all the time. Which way did I go here? I've just lost myself here. Hold on. Sorry. Another thing that you can look at is challenges. We've participated in a number of challenges, and they've been very useful and beneficial in terms of the services that they can provide to you. So Nextstream out of Calmura River was a great one, and I think they're continuing on as well. I did a pitch competition. There was a Healthy Buildings Challenge put on by Greentown Labs out of Boston, and allowed me as a finalist to fly there. They covered that. So there's great benefit from entering these accelerators and challenges. And then also looking for various recognitions. I applied to Change Now, which is a global summit in Paris, and we were one of 50 solutions selected. And there's the Solar Impulse Foundation looking for, well, they have more than 1,000 solutions that they vetted for sustainability and profitability. And we're Hello Tomorrow Deep Tech Pioneer. So some of these recognitions are great to look at as well. And then various programs. Vancouver Economic Commission has helped us with a number of programs, including capital mentorship. Van City Savings is always busy doing things. We were part of their Eco Cities Community Solutions Showcase, where we got to present downtown at the convention center. The Impact Six-Pack B Corp is something that you definitely want to look at, and Vancouver Economic Commission had a program for that, which is now Decade Impact. And you can look up the B Corp, which is a very good program to be part of. Another program I found was with Vantech in Tandem to get 4-hour CFO support and some feedback from a CFO. And then for Climate Tech down in the States, had a manufacturing that I found that you can apply to and become a part of. A current one is the Investor Readiness Program. I think applications are still open from Vancouver Foundation. And then there's the New Ventures BC Startup Competition. So there's all sorts of programs out there that you have to kind of keep your eyes open for. I found a number of just through being involved in paying attention on LinkedIn. Oh, shoot. I can't see. I'm gonna try to move this. No. Anyways, yeah, this bar is. I can't see that slide. Anyways, moving on. Moving on to more of the government grants that we've been part of that have been very helpful. IRAP is a great program, and the first thing you need to do is get an ITA, Industrial Technology Advisor, to become part of that program. And you need to have a registered company to be provided these grants. It takes some time to gain the interest and show some proof to your ITA, but once you do, you can start contribution to organization, which was a 5K grant, and we didn't have to provide any matching funds. Now we didn't get those funds. Basically the money goes to the research organization, and then what I soon found out was that having a market assessment study that's provided through IRAP was very important in terms of getting to the next stages. So, and then we got a youth grant, intern grant, which covered $20K over 6 months, and that was helpful in us doing a lab scale production, as well as building our office pod demonstration. And the MMRI grant was another IRAP project, along with a recent project that we've gotten through Green Center Canada, which was mentioned as well. So IRAP is a great research assistance program that you'll definitely want to be looking at. My Tax is another one mentioned by Bryn, which is a research program. So this is more driven by the university that you're working with and finding a professor that will do the application. It takes time for this to get, for the application to be vetted, and you need matching funds for this. So these funds support a graduate research project that the professor is leading, but it lends credibility to your work that you're doing. So we had a 3-year study with UBC Civil Engineering, which we got 2 published papers out of. And we also had an intern through Sauder School of Business through My Tax as well, which was very helpful. SHRED is a program that you'll want to look into if you're doing research. This is administered by CRA, and it gives it to the research you're doing, which you need to supply information for and detailed accounting on. But we just use our accountant and filled out the tech details ourselves. But there are companies that will do the documentation for larger amounts that maybe you can't handle as you move along. And some will actually provide the refund money up front. I mean, it will cost you a certain percentage, but if you need that money right away, then it's helpful. But I find that it's best to start early and build a relationship with the government on this SHRED program. And they will provide a pre-claim consultation to let you know if you would qualify and how to best prepare for that. So over 4 years, we had SHRED grant refunds of over 30K, which was very helpful. And then there's also investment program for an eligible business corporation, which will give tax credits for investments made in these EBCs. And you have to apply annually for that fund allowance. Export Canada, as you grow, these are a little bit maybe further along, but Export Canada provided a travel grant for us for the Change Now, which was mentioned before by Bryn. They have 8 programs and up to 300K in funding with various open dates. So you have to pay attention to when those are opening and when to apply. Business Development Bank of Canada is a great one as you're growing and providing financing and advisory services. And SDTC is sort of the higher level as well, although they are providing seed funding, which you need to be nominated by an approved accelerator for. Some of the additional circular economy resources I've listed here. Some of them I'm involved with, some I'm not, but circular economy leadership is a great one, and diving into what needs to be done. Okanagan Circular Society is recently established, and they're looking to build out. Project Zero is in that. Impact Zero is another accelerator. And then the Zero Waste Conference has been running for a whole number of years in Vancouver. So that's sort of the other end of circular economy, zero waste. Ellen MacArthur Foundation is doing lots of work in the circular economy. And then Visual Capitalist, that link at the bottom, has a great a 101 on the circular economy and a visualization of that. So the final thing that I would share is this quote from Joel Solomon that was shared to me by him, and I have it on my mirror at home, and I think it's very important because we are early, but know that you're doing important work, and showing dedication to that work is very important as you move forward. So I think that's all. And I hope I've covered it and been as clear as I can be with our journey. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Monty. Seeing one question in the chat there from Tasha. It looks like it's been answered by Bryn, but the question was, how do you get an ITA to get into IRAP? And it seems like Tasha has a Vantech CFO advisor, but you need to get a referral. So if you have any insight on that outside of Bryn's comment.
Oh, I didn't see Bryn's comment. Yeah, how did we get involved? There was somebody that was offering it through, I think somebody I met at the spring program, and so I just contacted them. And this is the whole part of networking that's so important, and just reaching out and asking those people.
Amazing. All right, Monty, thank you so much. We were kind of in and out throughout that, but your voice always caught up with it. So we managed to get all the details, and of course we'll have the recording and the slides to share afterwards. So thank you so much. That was wonderful. All right, so I think that wraps up our speaker portion of today. Thank you, Bryn. Thank you, Love-Ese, and thank you, Monty, for sharing your time and expertise with us. Every time I come face to face with this topic, I'm always learning new things and new resources to share. So thank you to everyone for your questions as well, and for all these details. We're now going to shift into 2 smaller rooms for sharing. The idea with these breakout rooms is that you share any insight that's come to you throughout hearing these panelists speak. You share any questions or barriers you may be facing with this topic, and also just to hear from one another about the various experiences going on when it comes to R&D. And so after some time, we'll convene back together as one big group for some final sharing before we head off. Quick note that in these breakout rooms, we'll be following Chatham House rules. So we welcome everyone to share candidly in these spaces. But after the meeting, if you can bring up the points that people shared without attributing to them directly, that's kind of the general rules that we follow in these breakout rooms. And I think that's it in terms of housekeeping. So I think you'll see a breakout room option pop up on your screen shortly here. And we'll convene back here in about 15 minutes. See you all soon.
Anyone's having trouble getting into their room, I'd be happy to try and help you get in there.
Hey, Alice, I think I accidentally clicked